You were not born insecure. You were not created weak. But somewhere along the way, someone, maybe a parent, a teacher, a failure, planted a lie in your mind, and you believed it. You're not good enough. That's not for people like you. You'll never make it. And now, every time you try to rise, to build, to become more, you feel it. That invisible weight, that inner voice whispering, stop. You don't lack talent. You don't lack opportunity. You're chained by limiting beliefs. And these chains are not made of steel. They're made of repetition, of emotional scars, of words you heard so many times they became part of your identity. But let me tell you the truth. Those beliefs are not yours. They were given to you, and what was given can be destroyed. What was learned can be unlearned. You have the power to rip out every single thought that holds you back. Not tomorrow, not when you feel more confident. Now. This moment is your line in the sand. Because if you don't kill those beliefs, they will kill your potential. Look around. Men are building empires with less than what you have. They're conquering fear, taking risks, speaking power into existence. And you hesitate, you analyze, you doubt, not because you're broken, but because you've been programmed to believe you are. I've lived it. I've been in the dark, paralyzed by thoughts that weren't mine. I've sabotaged success, pushed people away, turned down opportunities because somewhere deep inside I thought I wasn't worthy. That is the poison of limiting beliefs. They don't scream, they whisper, they don't block the door. They convince you not to open it, and it's time to burn them out of your mind, one by one. This video will not make you feel good. It will make you confront every lie you've accepted as truth. I will show you how Napoleon Hill, the father of the success philosophy, destroyed his own limiting beliefs and became the most powerful mind builder of the 20th century. He didn't wait for confidence. He built it. And you will too. Let's get something clear. Self-confidence is not a feeling. It's a decision. It's a discipline. It's the result of killing doubt in cold blood, over and over, until only certainty remains. And that process begins now. So let's begin with the foundation. Where do limiting beliefs come from? They come from authority, from repetition, from emotion. Hill taught that the subconscious mind absorbs thoughts through repetition of emotion-backed ideas. If someone you trusted, your father, your mother, a coach, told you something negative with intensity, and they did it often enough, it got stored as a fact. Not because it was true, but because it was repeated. So when you stand in front of a mirror and say, "I'm not enough," that's not your voice. That's a recording. And you've hit play so many times, your brain thinks it's real. But it's not. It's a script, and you have the pen now. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." That sounds beautiful, right? But here's the real power. Your mind is already conceiving. It's already believing. But the question is, what are you feeding it strength, or are you feeding it weakness? Because belief is not neutral. It's building or destroying every second. And most men are destroyed from within, long before life ever hits them from the outside. That's why you need to learn the principle of autosuggestion, one of Hill's greatest teachings. You have the power to reprogram your mind through repeated, intentional thought. You can speak new truth into your subconscious until it drowns the lies. But not once, not occasionally, every day, with emotion, with fire. That's how the old beliefs die. That's how new ones take root. The weak man says, "I'll believe in myself when I see proof." The powerful man says, "I'll build proof by acting as if I already believe." That's the formula. Belief creates action. Action creates results. Results reinforce belief. That's the cycle. And it begins with one decision: to stop waiting for confidence and start building it. Let's talk about your internal identity. You will never act beyond the limits of who you believe you are. If deep down you believe you're unworthy, you will sabotage every opportunity. If you believe you're invisible, you'll shrink in every room. If you believe you're powerless, you'll obey every fear. That's why belief is more powerful than skill, because belief drives behavior. And the only way to change the outer world is to rewire the inner one. Napoleon Hill didn't write Think and Grow Rich because he had proof it would work. He wrote it in total poverty. He was broke, rejected, unknown. But he believed that if he could change the inner man, the outer world would follow. And it did. He went from nothing to becoming the voice of success for generations. That's not luck. That's mental warfare and victory. So what are the most dangerous limiting beliefs? I'm not enough. I always mess things up. No one listens to me. I'm not the type of person who wins. It's too late for me. These are not thoughts. They are weapons. And if you don't turn them off, they will be used against you every single day. You don't need to wait for a therapist to tell you you're okay. You don't need a guru. You need to fight back. Every time that voice says you can't, you need to move. Not think, move. Because nothing kills a lie faster than action. Doubt grows in stillness. Confidence is born in motion. This is where most people fail. They try to think their way into confidence. You don't think your way in. You act your way in. You walk into the room even when your voice shakes. You speak your vision even when no one claps. You train your mind like a soldier trains muscle through pressure, repetition, and fire. Hill talked about the definiteness of purpose, knowing who you are and what you want with such clarity that fear becomes irrelevant. That is the root of real confidence. When your mission becomes non-negotiable, your mind falls in line. It obeys the orders you give it. But if you hesitate, if you doubt, if you act like a victim, your mind will follow. It will mirror your weakness. And that is a betrayal of the power you were born with. You were not created to live in mental slavery. You were not built to serve fear. You were born to command your thoughts, master your emotions, and move like a man who answers to no internal tyrant. But that requires war. Not with the world, with yourself. And that war begins with identifying the beliefs that are still holding. The steering wheel, where did they come from? Who gave them to you? Why are they still there? Then you replace them, not with cute phrases, but with declarations. Napoleon Hill didn't say, I hope this works. He said, I will. That's the tone, that's the fire. That's what burns lies to ash. And if you do this daily, if you repeat truth with emotion, act with discipline, and kill hesitation, you will become unstoppable. Not because life got easier, but because your mind stopped being your enemy. This is your mission now. To replace every limiting belief with one unshakable truth. You are already the man. Now act like it. The mind is a battlefield, and if you don't control it, it will control you. That's not philosophy. That's war. And most men are losing, not because they're weak physically, but because they've never declared war on their own thoughts. They walk through life defeated before they even begin. Why? Because they let a belief dictate their movement. They allow emotion to lead. They obey fear like it's a king. But you're not here to obey. You're here to dominate. Let's make one thing clear. The mentally unshakable man is not born. He is built. He is built through relentless exposure to resistance, through self-imposed suffering, and through the daily refusal to be ruled by temporary emotion. The weak wait for calm, the strong create it. While others complain about the storm, the man of steel walks straight into it because he knows who he is. This is what I call the nothing shakes me mindset. Not because nothing hurts, not because nothing scares you, but because you've trained yourself to move anyway. That's what makes you untouchable. The man who acts with fear still present is more powerful than the man who waits for courage, because he doesn't need the perfect state. He moves from decision, not from comfort. Napoleon Hill spoke of a burning desire, a purpose so clear, so intense, that every obstacle becomes irrelevant. That's the seed of the nothing shakes me mentality. It's not about feeling strong. It's about being so locked into your mission that no external attack can shake your internal certainty. People can doubt you, life can hit you, failure can humiliate you, and you stay locked in. Not because you're numb, because you've mastered how to feel and still fight. Most men never do this. They crumble at criticism, they break under pressure. They fold when things don't go as planned, but that's because their identity is soft. They've never questioned their own beliefs, never reprogrammed their narrative, never chosen who they will be regardless of what they feel. And that's why they lose, but not you. You've chosen a different path. You've decided that belief is a tool, not a cage. That confidence is a practice, not a gift. That your life will not be determined by what was said to you, what was done to you, or what the world expects of you. You are the author now, and your script is ruthless, precise, focused. So how do you build this mindset? You do it by stacking evidence. Every time you move through fear, you log a win. Every time you act without motivation, you reinforce power. Every time you reject comfort in favor of growth, you sharpen your edge. And that edge becomes your identity. It becomes the reason you walk different, talk different, execute different. This is where men get it wrong. They think they need to feel powerful to be powerful. Wrong. You need to act powerfully, and then the feeling will follow. Motion creates emotion, not the other way around. You train your nervous system by showing it that you lead, not your fear, not your doubt, not your pain. You wake up tired, move anyway. You feel anxious, speak anyway. You doubt yourself, show up anyway. Because the moment you move, you prove that the voice in your head is not in charge. You are. Hill wrote that faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. But faith is not passive, it's not a wish. It's built through repetition of courageous action. You don't wait to feel it, you install it through behavior. That's how you crush limiting beliefs. That's how you become unshakable. Look at history. Every great man, Marcus Aurelius, Theodore Roosevelt, Muhammad Ali, Nelson Mandela, they were not born with an armor of steel. They were crushed, criticized, doubted, and they moved anyway. That's why we remember them, not for perfection, for resilience, for choosing movement over emotion, mission over fear, purpose over pain. That's what you're doing now. With every rep, with every silent battle you win, you're forging a new reality. One where you're not ruled by your past. One where fear still exists, but it's not the leader anymore. You are, and this is not a one-time thing. This is daily, hourly. It's a choice you make every time you're tempted to fall back into the old identity, the weak identity, the one that waited, that doubted, that looked for permission. He's gone now. You buried him with every step you took when it was hard. And now a new version stands, one who doesn't need to explain himself, one who moves in silence and lets results speak. You've become the storm, and storms don't apologize. When life hits you, and it will, you don't flinch. You breathe, you stand, you look it in the eye and say, you picked the wrong man to break. That's the nothing shakes me mentality. It's not about being above emotion, it's about being above submission. You feel it. You process it. Then you execute anyway, and the world will begin to feel you differently, not because you said more, but because you've become more. More grounded, more focused, more deliberate. You don't waste words, you don't chase approval, you simply act. And that's terrifying to people who've spent their lives trying to feel ready before doing anything. You don't wait for certainty. You manufacture it through repetition. Every day, you write a new line in your legacy, not with words, with motion, with discipline, with the refusal to fold. That's how you become inescapable, not by talent, but by becoming the man who keeps showing up no matter what. Let me leave you with this. The mind will always test you. It will always whisper, stop, you can't, it's too much. But now you know the truth. You can hear the voice, but you don't have to obey it. You obey the mission, always. The moment you stop reacting, you start ruling. Most men walk through life as slaves, slaves to their triggers, slaves to emotion, slaves to what other people say and do. You've seen it. One small comment and they explode. One failure and they fold. One moment of pressure and they retreat. Why? Because they've never trained their internal response. They live on autopilot, driven by the same beliefs that broke them 1,000 times before. But that's not you anymore. You've chosen to master your reactions, to respond with precision, not panic. That's how empires are built, not in chaos, but in command. Let's be brutally honest. The way you respond to pressure reveals everything about who you are. Not how you act when things are easy, not how you talk when you're winning, but how you move when the plan breaks, when people betray you, when the pressure spikes. That's the real test, and most men fail it, not because they're bad men, but because they've never trained for it. They've never faced themselves. You are different. You're not just building muscle, you're building mastery. And mastery begins with the choice to never give away your emotional control again, no matter what happens. External chaos, disrespect, resistance. You remain calm, not because it doesn't affect you, but because you refuse to surrender your power. Napoleon Hill taught that every adversity carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit, but you only find that seed if you respond, not react. Reacting is emotional, it's weak, it's chaotic. Responding is calculated, it's strong, it's strategic, and that's what separates the man who leads from the man who breaks. Think of this like a battlefield. If your enemy knows your triggers, he controls you. If life knows exactly how to make you spiral, through delay, through disappointment, through doubt, it owns you. But when you become emotionally neutral, untouchable by circumstance, the battlefield changes. You're no longer a target, you're the commander. But how do you train that kind of control? Through repetition, through presence, through the daily decision to pause before you act. That's what Stoics called the gap, the space between stimulus and response. Most men don't have a gap. They get triggered and they react. But not you. You're creating that gap. You feel the trigger and you choose. You feel the anger and you decide. You feel the fear and you act anyway. That's power. And it's trained, not gifted. Let's make it practical. Someone disrespects you. Do you explode or do you observe? You lose a deal. Do you spiral or do you adapt? You feel insecure. Do you hide or do you move? The man who controls his reactions controls his future, because results don't come from the perfect environment. They come from perfect internal regulation. And that's what you're mastering now. Hill warned of drifting, letting emotion and circumstance dictate your direction. But you've burned that map. You don't drift. You decide. You don't follow feeling. You lead it. That's the essence of self-leadership. Controlling what you do, no matter what you feel. This isn't about being emotionless. It's about emotional strength. Weak men are reactive. Strong men are composed. Weak men scream. Strong men stare. Weak men quit. Strong men adjust. That's you now. You're not looking for perfect conditions. You're building perfect decisions, one response at a time. And yes, it takes discipline. There will be moments where you want to scream, to quit, to strike back. But that's the test. That's the moment where you either return to the old version of you or reinforce the new one. You've come too far to fold. You've seen what life looks like when you react. It's chaos, it's drama, it's failure. You want structure, stability, power, and that comes through control. This is the internal code now. No one can make me move unless I choose to. No one can shake me unless I give permission. No circumstance can define me unless I surrender. And I don't surrender. Napoleon Hill often referenced the subconscious mind as a fertile field. Whatever you plant will grow. Most men plant weeds, anger, doubt, reaction. You're planting oak trees, strength, clarity, dominance, and you water them with silence, with restraint, with every decision to breathe instead of break. This is not weakness, this is war, internal war, and every time you choose control, you win. Let's get tactical. You're in a situation where everything's collapsing. Business failed, relationship ended. Nothing is going your way. The average man collapses with it. But not you. You retreat internally. You go still. You scan. You reassess, then you respond. Not emotionally, strategically. That's how leaders operate. That's how winners rise. Not through emotion, but through evolution. You've been trained to think confidence is loud. It's not. It's silent control. The ability to walk into any situation and not be moved by it. You're becoming that man, and the world will feel it. They won't know why they respect you, but they will. Because you're not volatile. You're not desperate, you're not chasing, you're grounded, and grounded men are rare. Reaction is impulse, response is intention, and intention wins. Every morning you reinforce this. Cold shower, control. Hard workout, control. Discipline. In diet, control. Every area of your life becomes a training ground, not to suppress your emotion, but to master it. You feel it, then you command it. You lead it like a soldier, and that leadership radiates into your business, your relationships, your presence. The most magnetic men are not the loudest. They're the most stable, the most grounded, the most unshakable. And you don't become that by accident. You become that by choosing again and again to stay calm when the world offers chaos, to stay focused when the world offers distraction, to stay lethal when the world offers weakness. That's you now, not because it's easy, because it's required, because the mission is too important to be delayed by emotion. And when they ask, "How do you stay so calm?" you'll smile, because they don't understand yet. That control isn't a gift, it's a weapon, one you forged in silence, one you sharpen daily, one that no one can take from you. You are no longer a man who reacts. You are a man who commands. When you stop reacting, the next level begins. Indifference, not emotional indifference. Strategic indifference, the ability to filter what deserves your energy and what deserves silence. The power to look at the chaos, the criticism, the opinions, and not flinch. Because now, your mission is too valuable to be touched by distraction. You are not here to please. You are not here to explain. You are here to build. And builders don't debate with noise. They move in silence. Strategic indifference is one of the rarest forms of power. It means you've transcended the need to be liked, approved, or understood. You are no longer emotionally attached to anything that doesn't serve your purpose. That's not coldness, it's clarity. It's a ruthless alignment with your vision, and it makes you unstoppable. Let's be honest, most men are drained not by hard work, but by emotional leakage, caring too much about the wrong things. Someone criticizes them, it ruins their day. Someone doubts them, they spiral. They get ghosted, ignored, rejected. They crumble. Why? Because they gave power to what is irrelevant. They let opinions become facts, feelings become truths, but not you. You've begun the process of killing that weakness. You've begun the process of strategic indifference. Napoleon Hill understood this. He taught that definiteness of purpose makes you immune to distraction. When your vision is clear, the noise becomes background. That doesn't mean you don't feel it. It means you don't follow it. You observe, you filter, you discard. Because not everything deserves a response. Not everything deserves your energy. And every time you give power to nonsense, you delay your destiny. This is not apathy. This is elite control. The ability to remain internally stable no matter what happens externally. Your reputation is attacked, you stay silent. Someone mocks your vision, you move faster. Someone doubts your discipline, you double your effort. That's strategic indifference, moving with precision while the world tries to shake you. Let me make this clear. The opinions of the undisciplined are irrelevant. You don't take feedback from men who've never built what you're building. You don't explain your mission to minds that operate on fear. You don't justify your standards to people who live in compromise. You are not here to fit in. You are here to separate. And separation requires silence. It requires indifference. Think of the most powerful men in history. Did they beg for approval? No. They were indifferent to the noise because they were obsessed with the vision. Marcus Aurelius wrote journals, not press releases. Nikola Tesla lived in silence and built the future. Napoleon Hill was rejected, broke, mocked, and wrote the book that changed the world. Not because they reacted, but because they stayed the course. That's who you are now. A man who no longer flinches when the world barks. A man who smiles when others rage. Not because you don't care, but because you care more about what you're building than what they're saying. Let's be tactical. How do you build strategic indifference? Step 1. Detach your value from response. Your worth is not found in likes, applause, or validation. It's found in your discipline, in your structure, in your ability to show up day after day with zero emotional permission. Step 2. Create a filter. Before reacting, ask, does this serve my mission? If the answer is no, discard it, not with anger, with indifference. Step 3. Replace response with action. Every time you're tempted to react, redirect that energy into execution. Turn criticism into work. Turn rejection into power. Turn silence into momentum. This is what Hill meant by an educated man is one who has developed the faculties of his mind to such a degree that he may acquire anything he wants. That development begins with indifference, because until you master what you allow in, you'll be ruled by what doesn't matter. You are not the same man you were when you started this journey. You used to seek validation. Now you seek results. You used to explain your vision. Now you live it. You used to react to criticism. Now you thank it because it proves you're rising. Every time you ignore the noise, you reinforce power. Every time you smile at opposition, you build presence. Every time you walk away from petty wars, you protect your legacy. That's what matters now. Not claps, not comfort, legacy. You've noticed something, haven't you? The more you grow, the more people test you, not because you're wrong, but because your strength threatens their comfort. Your silence makes them insecure. Your focus makes them nervous. Let them be. You are not here to rescue their feelings. You are here to fulfill your potential, and potential is only realized through unwavering focus. That's why strategic indifference is a daily discipline, not just in public, but in private. The thoughts that pull you into fear, indifference, the voice that says you're not enough. Indifference, the old identity that tries to return when you're tired. Indifference, you don't fight it. You don't explain yourself. You don't justify. You just move, like a machine, like a force, like a man who answers only to the mission. Understand this. You will never reach greatness if you're constantly triggered by noise. Every moment spent reacting is a moment not spent building. Every ounce of energy wasted on opinion is energy, stolen from your empire. You can't afford that anymore. You've come too far. You've trained too hard. You've buried too many excuses to start digging them up now. So next time the world offers you chaos, decline. Next time someone throws shade, step over it. Next time your old mind tries to pull you back, smile. You've evolved. You are no longer a man who responds to everything. You are a man who responds to nothing that doesn't serve his mission. You've built silence. You've built discipline. You've built indifference. But there's a different kind of noise that every strong man will face when he rises. Criticism. It comes not just from strangers. Sometimes it comes from family, from friends, from people who knew the weaker version of you and cannot handle your evolution. And this is where most break, not because the criticism is true, but because deep down they still seek approval. You? Not anymore. You've already buried the need to be liked. Now it's time to bury the fear of being judged, because here's the truth. If you fear criticism, you will never lead, never dominate, never fully rise. Napoleon Hill said it plainly: the fear of criticism is one of the 6 basic fears that paralyze men. It stops them before they begin, makes them shrink when they should expand. But that fear is not truth. It's programming, it's conditioning, and it can be destroyed. Let's dissect it. Why does criticism hurt? Because you still attach identity to opinion. You think, if they disapprove, maybe I'm wrong. But stop. Who are they? Do they live with your discipline? Have they faced your battles? Do they wake up at your hour, bleed in your gym, execute at your level? No. Then their words are irrelevant. You don't take advice from the undisciplined. You don't accept judgment from the unfocused. Hill taught that no man achieves greatness without opposition. The taller the mountain you climb, the stronger the wind gets. That's what criticism is. It's wind, it's noise, it's friction. But friction doesn't stop fire, it strengthens it. And you are fire now. Let them talk. You don't respond. You build. Criticism is a mirror, not a master. It shows you what they see, not what's true. And most of the time, what they see is their own fear reflected in your action. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your results remind them of their excuses. That's not your problem. You're not here to manage their insecurity. You're here to destroy your limits. Let's talk about the types of criticism. There's the passive kind, subtle comments, sarcasm, quiet disapproval. There's the aggressive kind, outright attacks, mockery, rejection. And then there's the internal kind, the voice inside you that still carries their words. That last, and that's the most dangerous, because it sounds like your own voice. But it's not. It's a recording, and it must be deleted. How? Through evidence, through execution. Every time you show up despite the criticism, you rewrite your internal script. Every time you move forward, you build a wall between their voice and your identity. Eventually, their words won't even echo. You'll be too far beyond their frequency. Understand this: criticism is part of the price. If you want peace, comfort, and applause, stay average, play small, follow the rules. But if you want to lead, build, and dominate, you will be criticized. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of movement. No one throws rocks at statues that haven't been raised. The moment you elevate, the arrows come. Let them. Hill said, close friends and relatives, while not meaning to do so, often handicap one through opinions and sometimes through ridicule. Read that again. Even those closest to you can become enemies of your growth, not out of malice, but out of fear, out of jealousy, out of their own limiting beliefs. So stop expecting support. Build regardless, move regardless, execute regardless. You don't need them to believe in you. You need you to believe in you. And belief isn't built through comfort. It's built in the fire, in the moments when you're doubted, dismissed, disrespected, and you still show up. You still train, you still build. That's the version of you that earns self-respect, not the one who hides, the one who rises. Let's get tactical. How do you handle criticism in real time? First, pause. Don't react. Silence is your strength. Let them speak, let the emotion pass. Then decide, is there value here? If yes, use it. If no, delete it, emotionally and mentally. Second, document the attack, not to remember pain, but to use as fuel. When you train, when you build, when you execute, remember what they said. Not to seek revenge, but to prove to yourself that their words had no power. Third, speak less. Do more. Let your success humiliate their doubt. Let your results silence their noise. That's dominance, not screaming, executing. This is not about pride. It's about positioning. You are no longer on their level. Not because you're better, but because you're focused. And focus requires insulation from distraction, from opinion, from judgment. That's the cost of mastery. That's the life of the few. And yes, it's lonely, but that's the point. Criticism becomes background noise when your mind is full of purpose. You don't even hear them anymore because you're too locked in, too committed, too far gone to return to the old version of you that needed applause to move. Every criticism is a test. Every judgment is a challenge. Will you fold, or will you build? Will you retreat, or will you rise? You already know the answer. You've stopped asking for validation. You've started building your own proof. You've stopped defending your path. You've started living it. And soon they'll stop criticizing, not because they understand, but because they'll realize you can't be shaken. You're no longer a man who fears what they think. You are a man who proves what he believes. You've faced the criticism. You didn't react. You didn't explain. You didn't beg for understanding. That silence you chose, that's power. The kind of power few ever experience. Because we live in a world addicted to noise, men announcing every move, defending every choice, responding to every jab. And in doing so, they drain their strength. They become predictable, emotional, easy to read. But not you. You've discovered the truth. Silence is a weapon, and when you master it, you become untouchable. Let me make this clear. Silence is not weakness. It's control. It's restraint. It's the refusal to give the world access to your strategy, your emotions, or your mission. Most men speak because they're insecure. They need to be heard to feel significant. They broadcast their plans because they crave approval. But approval is a leash, and you've already broken yours. You don't need to be seen to be effective. You don't need to be understood to be successful. You don't need to be loud to be lethal. Napoleon Hill understood this. He warned that talking too much about your plans dilutes your power. He called it the habit of speaking before thinking. He wrote about the importance of self-control over words, because every word is energy. Every revelation is an exposure, and the man who exposes everything reveals his weakness. The man who speaks too soon invites resistance he hasn't prepared for, but the man who moves in silence, he controls the battlefield. Your silence is your shield now. It protects your momentum. It guards your vision. It keeps you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Let them guess. Let them wonder, let them underestimate you. While they're watching, you're building. While they're talking, you're moving. And by the time they realize what you're doing, it's already done. Let's get practical. You're working on a new level of discipline. Don't announce it. You're making a comeback. Don't post about it. You're about to shift everything. Don't say a word. Move, build, execute. Let them notice when it's undeniable. That's power. That's presence. That's positioning. The most dangerous men in history were not the ones who shouted. They were the ones who observed, calculated, moved without warning. Napoleon Hill learned this from the greatest minds he interviewed: Carnegie, Ford, Edison. None of them wasted breath. They valued silence because they valued focus, and you're doing the same. Silence also builds mystery. And mystery builds respect. People don't fear what they fully understand, but when they can't read you, when they don't know what you're thinking, when they can't predict your next move, they watch their words. They hesitate before crossing you. That hesitation is leverage, and you've earned it. Here's the truth most won't say. If they know your weakness, they'll use it. If they know your plan, they'll block it. If they know your pain, they'll poke it. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them explanation. You owe yourself protection. That's what silence provides. Let's talk about internal silence too, because it's not just about what you say to others. It's about what you say to yourself. You've already started killing the inner critic, but now you go further. Now you train yourself to act without overthinking, to move without internal debate, to execute without narrating every emotion. This is what the greats do. They don't ask themselves how they feel. They give themselves orders, and they follow them without negotiation, without noise. That's self-command. That's internal silence. And it's rare. You're starting to feel it, aren't you? The stillness, the clarity, the confidence that doesn't need to be announced. You walk into rooms differently now. You don't talk too much. You scan, you assess, you move when it's time and not before. That's power. Silent, deadly power. Hill said that success often comes to those who become success in their thinking long before the world sees results. That means your mind must already walk like a king before the crown arrives. And kings don't chatter, kings don't explain, kings don't plead for attention. They command it through presence. You've reached a level now where speaking is optional. Execution is mandatory, and that shift will confuse people. Why is he so quiet? What's he working on? Let them guess. Let the silence drive them mad. You owe them nothing but your results. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean you isolate. This doesn't mean you hide. It means you become selective, intentional. You speak when it serves. You speak when it's strategic, but never just to be heard. That's for the undisciplined. That's for the uncertain. That's not you. You've stopped oversharing. You've stopped narrating every move because you know what matters is not what they think. It's what you produce. And production requires presence, focus, energy, all of which are drained by unnecessary talk. You're no longer in the crowd. You've moved into the shadows, and from the shadows you build silently, ruthlessly, relentlessly, until one day what was hidden becomes undeniable. And the world will look up, not because you screamed, but because you were too consistent to ignore. That's the power of silence. It turns movement into mystery, mystery into respect, respect into control, and control into legacy. So here's the rule now. Speak less, build more, move quietly, strike loudly, and when they finally hear the sound of your success, it will be too late to stop it. The storm is coming. You feel it. The pressure rising, the timeline shrinking, the weight building, and this is where most men break. They fold, they panic, they lash out, because they were never trained to stay still in chaos. They were never taught that pressure is a test, not of skill, but of identity. But you've chosen a different code. You don't fear pressure, you use it. You don't run from storms. You walk into them, calm, composed, controlled. The world doesn't need more loud men, it needs more calm ones. Calm in the crisis, calm in the attack, calm in the uncertainty. Because calm is not passive, it's dominance. It's the expression of total internal authority. When you remain calm while everything shakes, you become the anchor. You become the standard. You become the one others follow, not because you ask them to, but because they see in you what they don't yet have. Control under chaos. Napoleon Hill didn't write about calm directly, but he demonstrated it. Imagine being broke, rejected, doubted by the very people you were trying to help, and still showing up, still writing, still pushing forward. That's calm under pressure. That's faith in motion. He knew that pressure reveals truth. It shows you who's real and who's a fraud. And you're about to prove once again that you're real. Understand this, pressure is not the enemy. Your reaction to it is. Most men see pressure as the reason to stop. You now see it as the reason to activate, because pressure compresses the weak and sharpens the prepared, and you are prepared, not just by knowledge, by repetition, by the daily habit of doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. When pressure rises, breathing becomes your weapon. Awareness becomes your strategy. You don't rush. You don't collapse. You slow down. You zoom out. You see more than the others. Because panic is blindness. Calm is clarity. Let's get tactical. The deadline is closing in. The tension is high. Everything's going wrong. You don't flinch. You ask yourself, what is required? Not what do I feel like? Not who can I blame? What is required? And then you do it. without noise, without drama, without emotional pollution. That's leadership. The world throws chaos at you, and you give it execution. They throw doubt, and you give decisiveness. They throw pressure, and you give precision. That's why you win, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You've come to understand something powerful. Panic is a luxury the disciplined man cannot afford. You don't have time for emotional outbursts. You don't have energy for breakdowns. Because while others are melting, you're moving. While they freeze, you adapt. While they pray for relief, you become the solution. That's the power of calm. It makes you efficient. While others waste time reacting, you're already 2 steps ahead. You don't scream at the fire, you extinguish it. And if you can't, you walk through it. Because the fire doesn't scare you anymore. It refines. Hill taught that every man must face adversity, but he also said adversity is a gift if you know how to respond. Your calm is the response. It's how you say to the world, "You can push me, but you will not break me." That's how kings think. That's how warriors lead. That's how you now operate. Let's talk about your physiology. Calm isn't just mindset, it's body control. You've trained this: cold showers, hard training, silence in discomfort. These weren't rituals, they were programming. You were teaching your nervous system to stay still when it wanted to. Run. That training is paying off now. You feel the fear, but you don't obey it. You feel the doubt, but you move anyway. That's real strength. Calm strength. Look around you. The world is noisy, reactive, overstimulated. That's why calm is magnetic, it's rare, it's respected. And the man who carries it walks into rooms with power. Not because he speaks first, but because he doesn't need to. This isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about mastering it. You still feel it all, but you're not a prisoner to it. You channel it, you lead it. That's what separates you now. You're not ruled by pressure, you rule within pressure. You've built this ability through repetition, through facing the storm daily, through choosing structure over chaos. Standards over excuses, and that structure has now become your fortress. Pressure comes, and it finds you already fortified. Every challenge is now an opportunity to test this calm. Someone betrays you, breathe. Something fails, breathe. Plans fall apart, breathe. Then move. Don't pause, don't explain, don't dramatize, move. That's your new baseline. Hill said that decisions made under emotional influence are almost always wrong. You've taken that to heart. That's why your decisions are clear now. Clean, effective, because you don't decide from stress. You decide from strategy. You've become the man others turn to in crisis. Not because you're loud, but because you're steady, and steady men are rare. They're the ones who build, the ones who lead, the ones who last. That's your legacy now. So the next time pressure shows up, smile. It's your moment. Not to collapse, but to confirm that the man you've been becoming in the dark is ready, that the calm you've trained is real, that the storm outside is no match for the stillness within. You are no longer a man who runs from pressure. You are a man who performs inside of. There comes a moment in every man's evolution where he must face the final form of control, not the control of his routine, not the control of his reactions, but the control over what he refuses to hold. And that's where true power lives, in the release, in the cold, calculated discipline of letting go of what you do not control. This is where most men stay stuck. Not because they lack ambition, but because they carry too much weight. They try to command things outside their reach, other people's opinions, the past, future outcomes. And with every ounce of that emotional burden, they sabotage their momentum. They're exhausted, not from the mission, but from dragging baggage that was never theirs to carry. You're different now. You've already learned how to stay calm under pressure. Now it's time to cut the weight. To drop every attachment, every expectation, every illusion of control that keeps your mind tangled in what doesn't serve you. Napoleon Hill taught that the successful man focuses only on what he can control. his thoughts, his decisions, his actions. Everything else is noise, and noise kills clarity. It's like trying to run at full speed while chained to anchors. Letting go is not weakness, it's efficiency. It's the elite practice of focusing your energy only where it creates results. Think about how much energy you've lost in the past trying to control how others see you. You crafted your words, curated your image, chased approval, and in the end, you still felt misunderstood, still felt unseen. Why? Because you were investing in what can't be guaranteed, external validation, and every ounce of energy spent on that is energy stolen from building the man you're meant to be. Let's break it down. What exactly must be released? First, outcomes. You can control your input, your effort, your execution, but you cannot control results. You can influence them, but not command them. And when you cling to outcome, you become fragile. Your confidence rises and falls with things you don't own. But when you focus only on what you can do, your habits, your rituals, your focus, you become stable, unshakable. Second, the past. Every mistake, every failure, every betrayal, it happened, it taught you, but it doesn't own you anymore. If you're still replaying the moment you failed, you're not building, you're bleeding, and every second spent looking backward is a second of future stolen. You've already paid the price for those moments. You don't owe them anything else. Third, other people's choices. This one's brutal. You can inspire, influence, lead by example. But at the end of the day, people will do what they do. Some will stay soft. Some will walk away. Some will try to drag you down. That's not your mission. Your mission is you, your discipline, your structure, your legacy. And no one else gets to dictate that. This is why Stoic philosophy aligns perfectly with Napoleon Hill's teachings. Both demand that you focus relentlessly on the internal world, your beliefs, your standards, your behaviors, because that's where your power is. Anything outside of that is a distraction, a trap, and you've fallen into it before. We all have. But now, you cut the rope. Hill wrote that you are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. But captains don't control the sea, they control the ship. And the ship is enough. You've learned to master the wheel. Now you trust the waters to do what they will. Your job is navigation, not prediction, not panic, just presence, just action. Let's get tactical. How do you actually let go? Step 1, awareness. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release immediately, no emotion, no debate, cut it. Step 2, refocus. Channel every ounce of attention back into what you can build. Your habits, your routines, your structure. When the world feels chaotic, your habits become the anchor. Step 3, replace the thought. Don't just drop it, replace it with action, with movement, with discipline. Let go of thinking, enter doing. That's where your peace is, because here's the secret. Letting go isn't passive, it's powerful. It's you deciding moment by moment to protect your focus like a warrior guards a fortress. Every distraction blocked, every useless thought silenced, every emotional spiral stopped before it starts. You've reached a level now where clarity matters more than comfort. You no longer have space for drama, for loops, for mental movies that play on repeat but produce nothing. You are a builder, now a creator, and creators don't carry what doesn't belong to them. They simplify, they cut, they streamline. So what happens when you finally let go? You get faster, cleaner, more dangerous. Because now all your energy is going to the mission. No leaks, no noise, just forward motion. And that motion creates momentum. And momentum makes you unstoppable. You walk lighter, speak clearer, move sharper, because you're no longer tangled. You've trimmed the internal fat, and now you're operating at elite levels. People will notice. They won't always say it, but they'll feel it. That you don't argue, that you don't over-explain, that you're not triggered by what doesn't matter. And that makes you powerful. That makes you rare. Hill would call this definiteness of purpose, backed by a burning desire. But he also knew a man cannot be definite if he is distracted. And that's why you've won today, because you chose clarity over chaos, focus over noise, power over fear. So from this day forward, the rule is simple. If you can't control it, you don't carry it. You are no longer a man who clings. You are a man who cuts. You've released the weight. Let go of what you can't control, and now something inside you has shifted. You're lighter, sharper, more precise. The noise is gone, the doubt has no seat. All that remains is motion, not noise, not announcement, just pure, silent execution. That's where we are now, the domain of men who act in silence and let their results scream. This is where the average man disappears, and the dominant man is born. There's a reason the most dangerous men in any room are rarely the loudest. It's because their confidence is earned, not spoken. It's built through repetition, through scars, through choices no one sees. They don't need to prove anything. They already know. And that knowing, the kind that's forged in early mornings, cold reps, hard decisions, that's what turns silence into strategy. Napoleon Hill didn't tell the world he was writing a legacy while he was doing it. He worked in the dark, he researched, he studied, he refined, and when the time was right, he released Think and Grow Rich. It didn't need hype, it had substance. That's your model now. Not influence, impact, not clout, construction. Let's say it again for the men in the back. You do not owe the world an announcement. You owe yourself movement. You owe your future results. And that future isn't created in the spotlight. It's forged in the shadows, in silence, where the work is real and the noise is gone. You've reached the phase where you don't even want to talk, because every second spent explaining could be used executing. Every post seeking attention could be a set. Every look at me moment could have been another move toward mastery. And you choose mastery every time. Agirem silencio isn't weakness, it's warfare. It's you becoming so obsessed with results that the only proof you care about is the one that lives in the mirror, in the numbers, in the outcome. Your reputation is no longer built on words, it's built on wins. Wins you stack in silence, daily. Let's talk about why silence while moving is so powerful. First, it removes pressure. When you announce your goals, you add a layer of expectation that distracts your focus. You perform for others instead of building for yourself. Second, it protects momentum. Early stages are fragile. Sharing too soon invites doubt, criticism, and noise that can derail your intensity. Third, it builds mystique. People feel something's happening, but they can't name it. That mystery is leverage. You want to be the man they feel, not the man they scroll past. The man whose aura says more than his mouth ever could. That's built through silence, through showing up relentlessly without broadcast, through refining the inner game so deeply that you don't need to sell it. It shows. There's another benefit, energy. When you move in silence, all your energy stays internal. It's not diluted in explaining, defending, performing. It's preserved, protected, and directed into what matters: your craft, your habits, your progress. You've already felt it, that pull to post, to prove, to show them what you're doing. But then you remembered who you are now. A man who doesn't move to be seen, a man who moves because it must be done. That internal certainty replaces the external need. Let's be tactical. You're building a new business. Don't talk, build. Let them see it when it's thriving. You're changing your body. Don't post progress pics. Let them notice when your presence shifts. You're upgrading your mind. Don't announce your reading. Let your wisdom and words reflect it when it counts. This level of discipline isn't common. Most people want the feeling of achievement more than the substance, but not you. You want the depth, the layers, the unshakable core that can't be taken. And that's not built through applause. It's built through silence. Napoleon Hill said that thoughts backed by faith and persistence become reality. But he never said that reality needs to be announced prematurely. He understood the power of delayed expression. Build it first, then reveal it. Let them wonder, let them doubt, let them talk. While they do, you move, and that movement, it compounds. Every day you work without validation, you earn strength. Every set without a camera, every grind without recognition, every sacrifice no one sees. It all adds up, and one day it explodes, not because you asked, but because it couldn't be ignored. The silent builder is the most dangerous force in any domain. He's not driven by likes, he's driven by legacy. He's not distracted by praise. He's grounded in purpose. He doesn't flex for followers. He moves for mission. That's you now, fully. You've developed a new rule. If it doesn't improve the result, it doesn't leave your mouth. You guard your voice, your time, your energy, because you know that everything you give away must be earned, and most people haven't earned access to your progress. So you give them silence. That silence builds power, builds mystique, builds fear in the minds of your rivals, because they can't read you, they can't track you, they don't know what's coming until it hits. That unpredictability is your weapon. You no longer explain yourself to small minds. You no longer broadcast to prove value. You simply live the result. And that's how you dominate, quietly, consistently, ruthlessly. Let the others make noise. You make moves. You've stopped talking. You've started building. You've moved in silence. And now there's one element left to complete your transformation: mental training. Not inspiration, not surface-level motivation. We're talking about forging a mind so sharp, so structured, so lethal, that it becomes your greatest weapon. Because no matter how strong your body is, no matter how disciplined your routine is, if your mind isn't trained, it will betray you in the moment that matters most. Napoleon Hill said it himself: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But most men stop there. They quote it, they tattoo it, but they don't train their mind to conceive properly or to believe consistently. You're not most men. You don't want phrases, you want mastery, and mastery demands mental repetition. Let's be clear, your mind is not yet your ally by default. It has decades of programming to undo: limiting beliefs, scarcity thinking, emotional triggers. You've already silenced much of that by cutting distraction and building structure. But now you must weaponize it. That means daily, targeted, relentless reprogramming, just like your body, just like your craft. How do you train the mind? First, intentional thought loops. You no longer let your brain run the same patterns unchecked. You catch the weak thoughts, you rewrite them. You inject powerful affirmations not once but constantly. Morning, noon, night. Not empty fluff. Tactical commands. I execute no matter what. I am the architect, not the victim. No, thought controls me. I direct every move. Hill called this auto-suggestion. It's not optional, it's essential. Your mind becomes what you feed it. If you allow one lazy thought to stay, it multiplies. But if you speak strength into it with intensity and repetition, it obeys. Because your brain doesn't care what's true, it only cares what's repeated. That's the secret, and you've unlocked it. Next, mental visualization. Every day you take time to see the results before they exist. Not as dreams, but as inevitabilities. You don't wish for them. You walk through them in your mind. You see yourself dominating, controlling, winning. In business, in the gym, in the mirror. You don't hope, you rehearse. Why? Because the mind can't distinguish between reality and intense imagination. If you train it daily to see your standard, it will align your body and emotions to execute at that level. Hill knew this. That's why he had readers write and read their definite purpose aloud, visualizing it with emotion. You've taken that same strategy and multiplied it with discipline. Mental training also requires environmental control. You filter what enters. Your head. You no longer scroll aimlessly. You don't consume trash content. Every input must either build your mind or be blocked. Every conversation must align or be silenced. That's how you create a fortified mental space, a place where focus thrives and weakness dies. You are no longer a slave to circumstance. You are a commander of thought. When fear arises, you name it, shrink it, and override it. When doubt creeps in, you attack it with action. When confusion hits, you don't freeze, you move. That level of mental agility isn't luck, it's training. And you've earned it. But now comes the final test, executing with proof, moving in silence, and letting your results become so loud they cannot be denied. You've done the work. Internally, in the dark, while no one clapped, no one asked, no one watched, and now it shows. You walk different, you speak with authority, you move without hesitation, because the inner chaos is gone, the battlefield has been cleared, the new operating system is installed, and it runs on execution. You don't ask if you're ready, you don't hope someone notices. You just produce every day, results in your body, in your business, in your presence. And those results, they're your new language, your new announcement, your new aura. You no longer need to say, I'm disciplined. They feel it. You know. Longer need to prove your focus. It's in your routine. You no longer try to convince anyone of your value. Your results are undeniable. This is the reward of training the mind and moving in silence. You become a ghost in the process, and a legend. In the result, let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them assume. You're too busy stacking wins, quietly, relentlessly, until everything around you bends to the force of your standard. Let's get tactical now. You have a system. Morning rituals that sharpen your mind before the world even wakes. Nighttime review where you examine thoughts, refine goals, sharpen intent. A scoreboard where only execution counts, no emotion, no excuse, just movement. And this system, it's not for a season, it's forever. Because the mind is like a blade, it dulls without discipline, but you're committed. Daily sharpening, daily silence, daily motion. That's how weapons are maintained. That's how warriors are made. You've now entered a space where 99% of people won't follow. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Because it's hard, lonely, repetitive. But it's where power lives. And you don't just visit power anymore. You reside there. Napoleon Hill said, "Persistence is to the character of man, as carbon is to steel." That's you, hardened, grounded, built through fire, sharpened through solitude, unshakable because you've trained when no one was watching, moved when no one was clapping, finished when others faded. Your results are no longer goals, they are outcomes because your inputs are non-negotiable. And your mind is trained to execute no matter what. That's the new law, that's the new identity. So when they ask, what changed? You won't need to say a word. They'll see it. In your eyes, in your posture, in your consistency. They'll see the man who built in silence and let his life become the volume. You are no longer thinking about being powerful. You are the proof.